How's everybody doing today? You're watching Slot Car Mayhem. I'm John, and this will be episode 4 of New to Carrera. And today we're going to install the pit lane into the stock layout of the 80s flashback. And I've had several questions about where I put the pit lane and what exactly I did. So we're going to take a video and we're going to show you the inclusion of the pit lane and its operation as well. Several of the items I'm going to be using here. I have a pit lane kit, and that's assembled per the instructions, and that's ready to go. I also have a safety car here that I'm using as a pace car. I also have the instruction manual for the Carrera that came with your set. This is where you'll find the instructions for enabling and disabling the lap counting feature of the pit lane adapter. The inclusion of the pit lane into this particular layout will be based on a couple different things. Most importantly is that this section here is set up just like it's shown right here in the diagram in the kit plan, where you've got a third straight, the control unit, and a full straight in this location. If you have the third straight and the full straight pieces swapped, then you might need to move the wireless charging station one step over and move the shoulder piece and swap the shoulder piece and the charging station to get enough clearance when this section of the track moves this way. Okay, the basic premise of what we're going to do here is pretty simple. Is this straight and this straight section are going to be removed out of the layout. We're going to break our layout right here between the third section and the lane change. Break it right here. And then we're going to remove this third section after the double lane change. We need to keep this one here. This one can go without any issues. I haven't experienced any problems removing that. Once that's done, what we're going to do is we're going to take this third straight and we're going to move that right here. These two pieces are now gone. We'll take one of those straights and we'll put it right here. So we're going to move this section out this way, and this section here will be coming in this way. That's why this orientation is important. If we have these two pieces swapped, you're going to find that this is not going to have room to move in because this is going to be closer, so then you'll have to swap these two pieces. Once that's done, the rest of it's simple. Right here is now where the pit lane adapter will go, so we'll have a third section and then the pit lane adapter with the pit lane coming in this way right here, and it will fit here with no problem. This section will be one additional straight longer, and this area here will be 1/3 section shorter, and that will allow everything to function properly. Okay, here we can see that I've started to move some pieces around. I'll take the camera so we can look and see what we have. Over here, I've removed the third straight and I've included it before the pit lane. I've taken the two straight sections that I removed. One of the pieces is put right here. The other piece will not be used at this time. And that's pretty much it. That's all it takes to include the pit lane into this layout. Now, I know probably a lot of you were expecting it to be right here in this location. However, having it off and away from the start-finish line is not a problem. So let's go ahead and get this hooked up and we'll start dialing it in and see what we have. Okay, right now I have the layout put back together with the pit lane installed. And one key thing I want to show you right here, just so you know, right here is our third section. This is critical. If you don't have this, a lot of times the sensor is so close to this curve that you're going to drift and you're not going to be able to catch the sensor in time, and you may not be able to make your pit. So always make sure you include that at least a third straight section before any lane change, and that includes the pit lane. Okay, one of the things we notice is the pit lane is pretty far away from the control unit itself, and what that means is a lot of people are going to assume the pit lane is going to be right here at the control unit, and that's fine, and you can use the pit lane adapter to account to count laps as well as the control unit. And if the pit doesn't bypass the control unit, or if it bypasses the control unit, you're fine. You can use it to count laps. However, in this case, the pit lane is all the way over there. That's half a track away from the start-finish line. So if we choose to count laps at the pit lane adapter, what's going to happen is you're going to end up with some really strange lap times. They may come in at a second and a half or something like that, and you really don't want that. So what we need to do is we need to disable the lap counting feature on the pit lane adapter. Strange, but the instructions for that can be found in the manual that came with your set. I did not find them in the pit lane adapter instructions. They come in here, and the process is really simple. Let's go ahead and turn on the control unit. And what we're going to do is we're going to hold the speed button down, and while we're holding the button down, turn the unit off and then back on. So we're holding down the speed button, we turn the unit off, we turn it back on, and now we can use the speed button to cycle through what we're doing. In this case, one light is deactivated, two lights is lap counting is activated. So we want to turn it off, and then we're going to take a car and we're going to drive it across the pit lane adapter. And there we go, that sets it. Then we can go ahead and hit the start button. Now, lap counting is not available for the pit lane adapter. It should be noted that the pit lane adapter comes with lap counting enabled by default. Okay, here's how we use a pace car. One thing to keep in mind, especially if you're going to be running a pace car, one of the most important things is how the system works. And when the pace car is returning home, what it does is it hits every single lane change and activates them until it finds its way home. That being said, what you need to do is make sure that the last lane change before the pit lane will either keep it in the proper lane or force it into the proper lane, one of the two. That is not the case with this particular layout. What we have here is we have a lane change that puts it in the outside lane on that curve, which will make it bypass the pit lane. So what I've done is I've just deactivated it by putting a very small piece of electrical tape over the sensor, and that will deactivate that lane change if you're going to be using a pace car. If you choose to use it just for fueling, of course you don't need to do that, but for the pace car, that's required. So if you're doing a layout or you're modifying a layout, make sure that the last lane change prior to the pit lane will force it into the correct lane or allow it to stay there, and that way your car will always return home. Okay, one thing I've had questions of, quite a few questions actually, before I even purchased anything in this set, trying to figure out how everything worked together, is reading through the manual. It was a little confusing on how the pace car actually worked, and I had an idea, but I wasn't sure until I experimented with it, and I found out I was correct in my logic. It's not worded that way in the manual. It can be a little bit confusing. But how the pace car function actually works, you can see I've got a pace car on there. It's just sitting there, and you just hit the pace car button. As soon as it hits the track, the emergency lights will come on, and now this will drive around, randomly changing lanes forever. Okay, it'll just do this on its own, just as you want it to, and you don't have to do anything else at this point. However, when you're ready to return the car home, what you need to do is make sure, first off, if you're running multiple pit lanes, that it's beyond the last pit lane, because otherwise it'll end up hitting itself where you don't want it to. So when we're ready to send it back home, we just hit the pace car button again, the emergency lights go off, and now it will hit every lane change until it finds its way home and parks itself. That's it. That's how easy the pace car function works. Just hit the button. And we'll wait till it changes lanes on the outside. There we go. And I'll send it home, and it'll just do what it needs to do. It'll hit every single lane change until it finds its way home again. That's it. Pace car, I love it. I think it's a great thing, and that's why on the expansion of this layout, I'm going to be having multiple pit lanes, 2 pit lanes actually. One is just for the pace car. The other one will be a much longer pit lane that I can house. It'll probably be long enough to house 10 to 12 cars. So getting 6 cars in the refuel shouldn't be a problem. Okay, that takes care of adding the pit lane into this particular type of layout. If you guys have any questions, just let me know. Just remember, the most important thing, number 1, is to make sure that the section of track where the control unit is set up as per the instructions. If not, you may have to move a few sections around or move your wireless charging base around to allow it to accommodate. Make sure you pull the 3rd straight section past the double lane change, and you're going to put that ahead of the pit lane. So the pit lane section will actually be 3 1/3 sections long, and you're going to put one of the straight sections you removed in line just before the first right to left lane changer right there, and you're going to end up with one additional straight section. So that's it. And that's how I included the pit lane and all the functionality of the pit lane into my layout without having to buy any additional track other than the pit lane adapter. So once again, thanks for watching, and if you guys have any questions, just hit me up and let me know. We'll figure this stuff out together. Okay, thanks for watching.